Ryan, I would say, in my opinion, is plausibly the most guilty party of this entire thing.
Ryan Reynolds says Justin Baldoni can't sue him over hurt feelings.
Ryan Reynolds is having a total breakdown after being fired for allegedly harassing Justin Baldoni. And to be honest, I didn't anticipate this.
Thesis is essentially that Ryan is actually such a good guy that he kind of had to be a bad guy.
With litigation, a satirical reference to Deadpool and Wolverine, and some nasty accusations, it's difficult to avoid wondering if Ryan's witty humor has finally gone too far. This is not your typical celebrity feud. Rather, it's a full-fledged battle of egos with Blake Lively Reynolds' wife at the center. If you thought Hollywood drama couldn't get any messier, buckle up because this story has enough plot twists to rival a Game of Thrones finale. Ryan Reynolds versus Justin Baldoni is a feud so juicy you'd think it was scripted for a Hollywood blockbuster.
Mr. Reynolds was a key player in the scheme, defaming Justin around Hollywood, strong-arming WME, their agency, into dropping Justin as a client and trying to destroy Justin's career however possible.
Justin Baldwin has decided that two can play this game counters, suing Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively with claims that they are out to destroy his career. By obliterate, we mean accusing him of everything from fat-shaming Lively to being a full-fledged sexual predator. Reynolds allegedly went one step further by using his Hollywood connections to get Baldoni fired by his agency WME. The Hollywood burn book is back, and it's more juicy than ever.
Yesterday, Ryan Reynolds filed a motion to dismiss. He wants to get out of Justin Baldoni's lawsuit in a filing that was riddled with character attacks and claims that he can't sue over hurt feelings.
Just hold on. Things will improve. Reynolds' legal team retaliated with the most vicious argument, claiming that it was only their opinion. Apparently, in a court of law, free expression protects your ability to show your true disgust for someone you truly think is garbage.
Basically, it's fine if I called him a predator if I believe it. It's fine. And the problem is, it's like, okay, so you're admitting then, essentially, that you have called him this.
Utilizing his former life as a justification. How dare you sue us for $400 million when your entire career is based on boasting about being a reformed dirtbag? Asks Reynold Camp.
What's going on here? What does he say? Why is he suing them?
It's a daring move to use Baldwin's redemption story against him, and Reynolds would already be polishing his trophy if there were an Oscar for pettiness.
However, his attorney Brian Friedman has given some quotes to the press, and they were pretty scathing. I mean, you gotta admit, the guy goes hard for his client.
Naturally, Brian Friedman, Baldwin's attorney, came out swinging, accusing Reynolds of manipulating and pressuring him, lighting a symbolic match, and then leaving like Deadpool in a slow-motion explosion sequence.
Now here Friedman is quoted in TMZ. Let's look at what he said. Mr. Reynolds' exploitation of his enormous power in Hollywood continues, this time arrogantly asking to be dismissed from the case despite his publicly documented involvement extending far beyond just being a supportive spouse.
According to Friedman, Reynolds' fingerprints are all over this alleged smear campaign, making him appear like a Hollywood mogul trying to ruin Baldwin's career. As if things weren't already chaotic, Baldoni has now targeted the New York Times and Leslie Sloan, Lively, and Reynolds' publicist. Yes, he is entangling everyone in this mess. At this point, it's less of a legal battle and more like a full-on Hollywood war. The only thing we need is a dramatic Netflix series to explain everything.
But Brian Friedman says Reynolds trying to skate is laughable because his fingerprints have been all over the smear campaign against Justin and the Wayfarer team since day one.
Now, the image Friedman is painting seems to show Reynolds planning Baldwin's demise while sipping his own aviation gin in a secret room decked out in Marvel merchandise. The villain in Baldwin's story is actually the same guy who spends the most of his time making jokes online and advertising his enterprises. It's so ridiculous that it almost seems like comedy, but it's genuine and getting more complicated by the second.
He adds, after lighting a match, Mr. Reynolds now seeks to run from the flames. It won't work.
Friedman did not mince words when he accused Reynolds of starting the entire feud on fire and then running away from the scene like a Hollywood action hero escaping a computer-generated explosion. He said Reynolds is evading responsibility at every opportunity and is more concerned with upholding his endearing public image than with resolving the alleged harm. According to Friedman, this is not just a case of hurt feelings, but a comprehensive effort to damage Baldwin's reputation, which Reynolds is currently attempting to minimize as harmless banter.
But Friedman says Reynolds trying to skate is laughable because his fingerprints have been all over the smear campaign against Justin and the Wayfarer team since day one.
According to Friedman, Reynolds isn't facing the fire. Rather, he's fueling it while acting as though he is above it all. The attorney made it clear that no amount of sardonic court filings or Marvel-level charisma would undo the alleged harm done. So if Friedman has anything to say about it, Reynolds won't be getting away with this drama unscathed. Let's discuss what's at stake first. Ryan Reynolds, the king of snark, is the man who created an empire with his razor-sharpened wit and devil-may-care attitude. His Deadpool franchise is essentially a shrine to his brand of irreverence.
I want men, first of all, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay?
Yeah.
Right? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable.
So how do we get here? It all began when Reynolds chose to make a very obvious parody of Baldoni in Deadpool and Wolverine by introducing a character named Nice.
As we reported, Ryan filed the dismissal docs Tuesday, calling Justin thin-skinned for complaining that so-called Nice Pool character from Deadpool and Wolverine was mocking him.
On paper, Justin Baldoni, the self-described woke feminist, is a man who has made a name for himself by making films that have a socially conscious message. These two are completely different. We watch as they square off in one of the most odd Hollywood feuds of our time, with one making jokes about chimichangas and the other giving TED speeches on masculinity.
And then they say, well, even doing that, he's just thin-skinned for complaining about it.
Reynolds' defense team has now essentially acknowledged that Baldoni inspired Nice Pool. Baldwin's thin-skinned fury was described as being overly sensitive, which is equivalent to telling someone they're too frail to bear your genius. Daring action Reynolds.
No, it wasn't just the so-called. He confirms. They say they don't dispute that the character was based off of Justin Baldoni. It was essentially Justin Baldoni. And so Ryan Reynolds admits this.
However, let's not fool ourselves. When your satire attacks a real person, it ceases to be about the art and begins to resemble bullying. Naturally, Reynolds rejects this idea completely since he is Deadpool. In the name of comedy, nothing is off limits, right?
Reynolds, who is married to Blake Lively, was accused in the lawsuit of mocking and bullying Baldoni by using the character of Nice Pool in Deadpool and Wolverine to satirize Baldoni's woke feminist image.
And then there's the whole Nice mess. Imagine watching one of the biggest films of the year and discovering that a character is obviously based on you, but it's not flattering. That's exactly what happened to Baldoni when Reynolds made Nissole, a parody that made fun of his woke feminist image. It wasn't just a lighthearted joke, it was a full-on roast, with Baldoni's carefully constructed public persona being turned into a punchline for millions of people to see. For Baldoni, this felt like more than just comedy. It felt like a personal attack. He had built his brand around being a role model for modern masculinity, and now he was being made fun of on a global scale. Nice retaliated with a lawsuit, claiming Reynolds had crossed the line from humor to harassment because it wasn't satire but rather humiliation.
All hell broke loose. She claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign against her.
Let's take a moment to discuss Lively, who is Reynolds' wife and Baldwin's co-star. She is right in the thick of this issue and isn't holding back when she accuses Baldwin of more serious things than just inappropriate behavior.
She's brought the suit and he's got to defend himself. And there's some very serious allegations being made against him and Wayfarer for harassment.
According to her, he used his publicists to spread unfavorable rumors about her following the release of the movie. If this is accurate, it's a calculated move that presents Baldoni in a very different light than the progressive feminist image he attempts to project. But here's the real twist. Reynolds defends although Lively is supporting his wife as any husband would. He is also strengthening his case against Baldoni, so he doesn't feel particularly selfless about it.
That it was Ryan who had called this shot, that it was very obvious now that we know his brand of narcissism. I feel like we all deserve like PhDs in psychology by the end of this.
The public is now forced to pick sides, and let's face it, it's not an easy one. On the one hand, there's Reynolds, the sardonic anti-hero who's made a living by disparaging everyone and everything. On the other, there's Baldoni, the sincere feminist who is now facing widespread accusations of hypocrisy. And finally, there's Lively, whose claims have further complicated this already tumultuous feud.
100% Ryan was the one who put this line in here. Not SNL, not Tina Fey, not Blake Lively, but Ryan.
Is Baldoni the one hiding behind a well-maintained image suddenly revealed as the aggressor? Or is Reynolds the villain here abusing his position to harass a fellow actor in the name of comedy?
They are pulling quotations from a 2017 article as the opening to everything.
When Blake Lively made accusations against Justin Baldwin, it was like a plot twist in the third act of a thriller. If you thought this was just about a superhero movie parody character, think again. Lively's explosive claims took this feud from a low simmer to a full-on rolling boil, and the fallout has been nothing short of spectacular. These are the real fireworks of this Hollywood drama.
So negative press swirled around her during this whole, like a month, right? Later, she would describe this as though it was the pile-on against Trump. Honestly, it's like most of us, especially in Republican politics or the news, this is called Tuesday for us.
Thus, this is the T. Blake. The very same Baldoni, who prides himself on being a feminist champion, was accused of sexual harassment by Lively, the queen of glam and sarcasm. On the set of It Ends With Us. According to Lively, his actions weren't just inappropriate, they were downright predatory. If that wasn't enough to send Hollywood's rumor mill into overdrive, she added another juicy layer. He allegedly used his PR team to smear her reputation after the film's release. That's right, he didn't just harass her. He allegedly revealed her true face to the world.
Mr. Reynolds' exploitation of his enormous power in Hollywood continues. This time, arrogantly asking to be dismissed from the case despite his publicly documented involvement, extending far beyond just being a supportive spouse.
Let's not pretend that the ongoing Reynolds versus Baldoni battle, in which his wife's name is being dragged through the mud, didn't get a nuclear component. Reynolds was no longer only defending his satire. He was on a warpath, and who could really blame him? You would also be sharpening your verbal daggers if someone were accusing your spouse of harassment and starting a smear campaign against them.
Hollywood power couple Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and actor and director Justin Baldoni. The plot of this lawsuit is actually more interesting, I believe, than the film that they made.
Hollywood power couple the plot of this lawsuit between Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and actor and director Justin Baldoni is actually more intriguing, in my opinion, than the movie they made. But hold on. This is Hollywood, where nothing is ever as straightforward as it seems. Why now? Why right after Baldoni filed his lawsuit against Reynolds? Is this a calculated counterattack meant to damage Baldwin's reputation? Or is it Lively finally deciding she's had enough? The waters are murky, and everyone has their theories. Some claim it's a typical instance of tit for tat, while others contend it's a legitimate complaint at last being addressed.
Ryan, I would say, in my opinion, is plausibly the most guilty party of this entire thing, okay? He has just been publicly humiliating Justin Baldoni.
If Deadpool is the king of brutal humor, then Nice Pool is the character who started this whole circus. The not-so-subtle parody of Justin Baldwin's legal team hasn't even bothered to deny that Nice Pool is his overly earnest, painfully woke younger brother. Yes, they have all but acknowledged that Baldwin inspired Nice, but they have defended it by calling it Baldwin's just overreacting thin-skinned outrage.